know, that big, ugly house on top. Hello? Hello? Ben Jessup, and this is my son, Steve Jessup.
Where you from?
Baltimore. We have a dental practice there.
This glass. I need this. No, I need this glass. You got it. What the hell are you doing? Talk to the hand, okay? I'll be right back. Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson.
Do you see these almonds on my split?
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. I see the almonds on your split.
Just like me.
Have you ever wondered how a 4-year-old kid from Chicago became one of jazz's most respected voices, only to walk away from it all to chase Hollywood dreams? Bill Henderson lived 2 extraordinary lives, and what happened between a jukebox hit in 1958 and a lead pipe in a library in 1985 will leave you stunned. But here's what nobody tells you. There's a recording session that changed jazz history forever, and a single father's sacrifice that Hollywood never celebrated. And the reason he disappeared from the music scene for years? That secret is darker than you think. March 19th, 1926. Chicago, Illinois welcomed William Randall Henderson into a world that would never be ready for his talent. At just 4 years old, Bill stepped onto a stage as a singer and dancer, winning Phil Baker's Artist and Models amateur show. Most kids that age were learning to tie their shoes. Bill Henderson was learning how to command an audience. His father taught him something crucial during those early years: sing softly, let the audience come to you. That lesson would define his entire career. But childhood success doesn't pay bills. Bill spent his teens and 20s bouncing between school, day jobs that barely covered rent, and singing gigs that paid even less. Then came the Army. For most young men, military service meant putting dreams on hold. For Bill, it became an opportunity. He worked with crooner Vic Damone, refining his craft while serving his country. The experience taught him discipline, timing, and how to read a room filled with soldiers who desperately needed to be transported somewhere else through music. In 1952, Bill returned to Chicago and began his professional music career, performing with a young pianist named Ramsey Lewis. They were both hungry, both brilliant, both convinced they were destined for something bigger than the Chicago club circuit. Night after night, they worked stages across the city, building a sound that blended blues, gospel, and jazz into something audiences couldn't ignore.
Please come home.
But Chicago was too small for what Bill Henderson was becoming. In 1956, encouraged by pianist Billy Taylor, Bill made the move every jazz musician dreams of and fears in equal measure: New York City, the toughest field in jazz, where legends are born and egos are destroyed. Bill arrived with nothing but his voice and the soft delivery his father taught him decades earlier. In 1957, everything changed. Bill met Horace Silver, a jazz pianist whose compositions were reshaping the entire genre. One day, Bill sang for Silver, and the pianist heard something nobody else had noticed. Silver had written lyrics to his instrumental hit, Senor Blues, and believed Bill was the only man who could bring those words to life. Bill recorded the song with the Horace Silver Quintet in 1958. And as he would later say, that's when it all began. The track became a jukebox hit, not just any hit. It remains one of Blue Note Records' biggest-selling singles in the entire label's history. Jazz journalist Leonard Feather once said that Henderson's phrasing is virtually his own copyright. He tends to space certain words as if the syllables were separated by commas, even semicolons. Yet everything winds up as a perfectly constructed sentence. That unique style, that deliberate spacing, that's what made Bill Henderson unforgettable. Between 1958 and 1961, Bill recorded for the VJ label, working with an incredible roster of jazz royalty. The Ramsey Lewis Trio, an octet led by Benny Golson featuring trumpeter Booker Little and saxophonist Yusuf Lateef. The Tommy Flanagan Quartet, and orchestras that brought strings and oboes into jazz arrangements.
Lord, I spent many a days and nights.
His debut album, Bill Henderson Sings, dropped in 1959, and critics lost their minds. In June 1960, Louise Davis Stone wrote in the Citizen Call about seeing Bill perform with the Cannonball Adderley Quintet at the half note. Bill Henderson took the mic and set the place afire with Moanin'. There's a naked sexuality plus an element of sincerity that makes his voice one of the most significant voices in the business. In August 1960, Bill won the New Star Award in Downbeat magazine's International Jazz Jazz Critics Poll, beating out John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters, and Jimmy Witherspoon. In October, Billboard's Jazz DJ poll voted him most promising jazz vocalist. The momentum was undeniable. Bill Henderson was ascending. Then came 1963, the album that would cement his legacy forever. Bill Henderson with the Oscar Peterson Trio featured Peterson on piano, Ray Brown on bass, and Ed Thigpen on drums.
What you gonna do when your chair gives out?
It's considered a jazz classic, a masterpiece that showcases everything Bill could do with his instrument. His voice was masculine yet vulnerable. He sang about heartbreak, but never let emotion destroy precision. Every note had purpose. Every pause had meaning. Bill became a fixture on the Playboy circuit throughout the 1970s, performing at Playboy Jazz at the Hollywood Bowl, Monterey Jazz Festival, and the Litchfield Jazz Festival. He sang alongside everyone who mattered: Dizzy Gillespie, Count Basie, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, the Charlie Hayden Quintet. When you were that good, legends wanted to share stages with you. But something happened in 1967 that would change Bill's trajectory completely. His friend Bill Cosby suggested he pursue acting. Hollywood was calling, and Bill answered. He relocated to Los Angeles and began auditioning for television and film roles. The transition wasn't smooth. Jazz vocalists don't typically become actors. The skill sets are different. The industry is unforgiving. But Bill had something Hollywood couldn't teach: presence. His television credits started piling up: Happy Days, The Bill Cosby Show, Sanford and Son, Harry O, The Jeffersons, What's Happening, Good Times, Different Strokes, Heart to Heart, The Incredible Hulk, Cagney and Lacey, Benson, Hill Street Blues, Dreams, The Facts of Life, The Twilight Zone, MacGyver, Picket Fences, In the Heat of the Night, NYPD Blue, Mad About You, ER, Seventh Heaven, Cold Case, and My Name is Earl. Supporting roles, guest appearances, character parts that required him to bring depth in limited screen time. But films, that's where Bill found something special. In 1976, he appeared in Silver Streak with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. Then came Fletch in 1985 with Chevy Chase, but it was another 1985 film that gave Bill one of his most memorable roles. Clue, the cult classic mystery comedy based on the board game, cast Bill as the cop. His character gets killed with a lead pipe in the library, depending on which of the 3 endings you saw in theaters. Tim Curry, Eileen Brennan, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd. Bill held his own with comedy legends.
In 1991, Bill appeared in City Slickers with Billy Crystal. Then White Men Can't Jump in 1992, where he was part of the Venice Beach Boys. Cousins with Ted Danson and Isabella Rossellini. Maverick in 1994 with Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner. Ghosts of Mississippi in 1996 with Alec Baldwin, James Woods, and Whoopi Goldberg. Conspiracy Theory in 1997 with Mel Gibson, Julia Roberts, and Patrick Stewart. Lethal Weapon 4 in 1998 with Gibson, Danny Glover, and Joe Pesci. Bill was working constantly, but something was missing: the music, his first love. The thing that defined him before Hollywood ever knew his name. Throughout his acting career, Bill was also raising his daughter, Mariko, as a single father. Being a parent while building 2 separate careers in entertainment isn't just difficult, it's nearly impossible. But Bill made it work, because that's what fathers do. Mariko became his greatest accomplishment, his reason for every sacrifice, every audition, every late-night performance. In the late 1990s and into the 2000s, Bill returned to his roots.
Sun in the sky.
He resumed singing and touring, even in his 80s. He performed at the Kennedy Center, at the Hotel Alcon's famed Oak Room in New York, and at Lincoln Center. In 1999, he made a guest vocal appearance on Charlie Hayden's album, The Art of the Song, sharing vocal duties with the late Shirley Horn. In 2006, at age 80, Bill released Live at the Kennedy Center with the Ed Vidica Trio.
Are you in trouble, boy, and now you're heading into more?
The following year, he recorded Beautiful Memory, Bill Henderson live at the Vic in Santa Monica, just 3 days after his 81st birthday. Co-produced by his daughter, Mariko, and Lynn Robin Green, the album was a retrospective of his repertoire. His working trio featured pianist Tatang Katindig, bassist Chris Connor, and drummer Roy McCurdy. Bill was proving that age couldn't diminish what God gave him. Critics who saw him perform during those final years were stunned. His vocal powers remained undiminished. The phrasing that Leonard Feather praised decades earlier, still intact. The deliberate, thoughtful delivery that made every song feel like a perfectly constructed sentence, still mesmerizing. Bill Henderson wasn't just performing in his 80s, he was thriving. Bill was married to Ritsuyo Moriatsu, 1972, though details of their relationship remained private. He preferred to keep his personal life separate from his public persona, focusing instead on his work and his daughter. Known affectionately as Uncle Bill to many in the jazz community, he became a mentor figure to younger musicians who wanted to understand what real artistry looked like. In March 19, 2016, Bill Henderson celebrated his 90th birthday. 2 weeks later, on April 3, 2016, he died of natural causes at his home in Los Angeles. The jazz world mourned, the acting community remembered, but most importantly, his music lived on.
Bill Henderson created something undeniable. He took his father's advice to sing softly and built a career that touched two distinct worlds. He recorded albums that remain jazz classics. He appeared in films and television shows that introduced him to audiences who never stepped foot in a jazz club. He proved that you could start at 4 years old and still be relevant at 90. What makes Bill Henderson's story remarkable isn't just his talent, it's his choices. When Hollywood called, he didn't abandon jazz. When jazz called him back, he didn't resent acting. He understood that both worlds needed what he had to offer. That voice, that spaced words like commas and semicolons, that presence that commanded stages and screens, that dedication to craft that never wavered. His legacy lives in every note of Senor Blues, still selling decades after its release. It lives in Bill Henderson with the Oscar Peterson Trio, an album that defines what jazz vocal excellence sounds like. It lives in Clue, a cult classic that new generations discover every year. It lives in his daughter, Mariko, who carries forward his commitment to artistry. Bill Henderson proved that you don't have to choose. You can be a jazz vocalist and an actor. You can honor your father's lesson to sing softly while commanding Hollywood's attention. You can work with legends like Frank Sinatra and Mel Gibson, Oscar Peterson and Billy Crystal,